So this is a bit, I mean, it might be a little bit controversial, but fundamentally most of
Never.
us we're quite lazy. We think about, right, and if I think about myself and I'm on a train going home after being in London for the day, I know logically I'm about to go through a really bad signal zone. I know that. But I'm looking at something on my phone and it won't load for 3 seconds and I get frustrated and I'm like, oh, this is really annoying. And I think that's the thing. If something doesn't work in seconds for us because we're so used to everything being at our fingertips, instantaneous, we can get it right away, and we lose interest. And it's literally been seconds before we lose interest, but we lose interest. We're already, frustrated. And so I think when you're looking at your journey, it's making it as easy and as simple as possible. Thinking of your candidate who just wants to go from A to B. They don't want to go around the houses, they don't want to tour, they don't want to go into a maze, they literally want to apply for a job, and really keeping it that simple. And I think that's where sometimes organizations and some of us ourselves can go a bit wrong, because you might go, right, I'm going to do this fancy new career site. How many steps or how many clicks do I need to get to before I get to the end goal? And you want to add in this bit and that bit and another bit, and actually it becomes a really clicky journey, and your poor candidate's gone, I'm lost, like I completely don't get this, I'm totally lost. And actually one of the best things you can do is to take a step back and go, right, what works for the type of candidate that I've got? What do they want to get to? How can I make it really, really easy? I think you don't have to make it fancy. That's the thing. I think sometimes, I think I said it before, if it's not broken, don't fix it, because you don't need to. If your data, and data is so important here, but if your data is telling you that your candidate is going from A to B and they're applying and you've got a great applier at Heroes, brilliant. If your data is telling you that you're not making it easy for your candidate to get somewhere and you've got a really high drop-off rate, then do something about it. But I think it's making it really, really simple, and consider how your candidate's feeling. Like at every point in their journey, they're here, what do they want to see? They're over here, what do they want to see? And I think having that in front and center of your mind means you're going to create something that really works for your organization. It might not be groundbreaking, but for your organization, it's going to work really well. And what you want, whether a candidate gets the job with you or doesn't get the job with you, is to come away thinking, I had a great experience. It was easy to get the role. I might not have been successful, but I might want to go back and sign up again. If you give the candidate a bad experience, you've lost them. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, treating your candidates how you would want to be treated, but also remembering, if you think of that lazy thing in your mind, and I know it's a bit of a negative word, but how quickly do you get frustrated when something doesn't load on your phone? Think about it for a candidate. How quickly do they get frustrated if they can't go from A to B really easily?
Yeah, totally. I think about it and I think that's the real shift, is to think about it. Claire, do you have a dog?
I have a dog, sorry guys.
Sorry, I can't remember the dog's name.
Poppy.
Hi, Poppy. Come down, Poppy, please. We're live. We have to come say hello. I forgot it was Poppy. I can't remember Poppy's name. Then I couldn't remember you had a dog. Anyway, I think I hear Poppy normally on the phone. Sorry, there we go. Got distracted. This is what happens to Claire and I. If we weren't going down a whole Poppy tangent here. Going back to the customer experience, though. I think about it like the candidate experience, like being a customer. I want to buy things very quickly. I buy on a whim. I don't know about you. I'm such a whim buyer. Oh, that looks pretty. But, I need another one of those. Oh, it's on sale. I am the worst. However, if it takes me basically longer than 2 weeks because I'm on a whim, I ain't buying it. So if you think about that for a candidate and they're not looking for a job, or they're vaguely interested, you need to catch them in the moment. You've gone to all this trouble of creating this experience, the content, the people, and then you're going to lose them just because it takes more than 2 clicks. And what about uploading a CV? Uploading a CV, you're on a train, folks. They haven't got a CV. How do you create an environment where they can click and say, I'm interested? If you really need a CV, because that's your process, you can't shift that process right now. Get them to apply and then contact them saying, wonderful, can you send us your CV? Whatever it is you need to do. But remembering you're catching most people on a whim, not because they're going in the process of looking for a job with you, especially if it's a referral, if they're seeing a post from somebody else in your organization with a CTA of, apply now to find more. You've got to catch them right at that moment where they're even vaguely interested. So treat them like a customer. So then that leads up to the point of nurture, for example. I feel so finally thankful that I'm having conversations with organizations about nurture, right? They might not be ready then, or you talked about, silver medalists. How do you actually engage people and nurture them through the process so that they feel valued? Because they might not remember every step of the process. They might not remember if it was easy or if it was hard, to be honest as well. But they will remember how they were treated and the experience they had, right?
100%. And I think that customer, thinking of your candidate as a customer, I think is really, really important. I'm going to use a duck shop in Amsterdam for this one. So when I went to World Employer Branding Day and I was there.
Did you? I didn't see you there.
I've no idea. But we were walking down Amsterdam, like one of the high streets and stuff, and we saw this duck shop and we were quite fascinated with the ducks, and we kept walking past it and we kept wanting to go in. And then when we went in, we had this most amazing time because, it was just full of just great ducks and we both have a duck. But that aside, we had a really nice experience. And so I can guarantee if we ever go back to Amsterdam, we're going to go back into that duck shop and probably get more. You're welcome. But I think it's the thinking about how you're treated in a shop when you go into a store and you think, there might not be something here for me, but I loved going into that shop. I loved the feeling, the people really nice to me. I really had a good time versus going into a shop and it was rubbish. And the branding might be brilliant. It might be really exciting. It might be everywhere. It might be really glossy and new, but your actual experience of going into the shop was terrible. You're not going to go back there. And I think that's how to also think of that candidate-centric journey. Another bit, which I'll add in, which might be a bit of a tangent, but to your point about CVs, if you've got a really, robust, gritty, lengthy application process, and you're asking people to fill in loads of questions. So they're filling in all these questions and they're filling in these boxes that ask for their work experience or their university. And then you say, can you upload your CV? It's a bit of a, you've kind of taken them on this journey and then you're going, I still need your CV. And but I've already just, And it's like they've just written all the content from their CV into this application form for you, and then you still want their CV. And I think it's thinking of those little things like that. And also, a lot of people will not have a CV to hand. Like I remember when I was looking for jobs years ago, people were like, can I have your CV? And I was like, oh no. And it took me ages just to go and want to write my CV because I just hated doing it. And I was still having to jump through all these hoops to talk about my experience, talk about where I'd gone to school or university or whatever, and then talk about why I would be great for the job. And all of that was already on my CV. So I think getting that candidate centricity at your journey, it's got to be everywhere. And I think if you do that, you can have really, really good journeys. My other part, I think, is also how do you help your recruiters? So if you're running really good campaigns, and you know that actually with a campaign, you're not going to be able to manage the volume of applications. How do you turn off the applications at some points? You're also helping your recruiters as well. So you're actually also helping both points. So you don't get overwhelmed with candidates. You actually have a balance of candidates. So you don't get overwhelmed with applications, and if you want to do a tailored reply, you have the resource to go and do it. But I think when you're starting out as well, think of it both ends. Think of the team that you've got implementing a bit of a campaign for you, and also think about your candidate at the end and what they want to see. So if they've not been successful, they want to get a really nice rejection email. Well, no rejection is nice, but they want to have something where it adds value.
No, you're not leaving. You haven't got the job.
Great.
You're right.
Yeah.
You love me though.
Thanks so much. But then for your recruiters, they're not feeling overwhelmed because you're not saying to them, but we need to do a tailored reply to every candidate that comes in because it's a campaign that's really important, but you've got 500 applications, off you go. So I think it's how do you balance it, and how do you really resonate with your candidates, but also as well as your team that's running things too.
Yeah, I think everyone in our community is talking about that. I mean, they're talking about how, simplification, automation, streamlining of the candidate journey. And if any of you aren't focused on that, then raise your hand, because I will not believe you. Everybody is talking about that kind of, those three things: simplification, automation, and streamlining. Because what they are trying to do is, like we're saying, is if they can streamline the process, the journey, then those smaller, then things get better internally and externally, which is basically what you're saying, is that if you simplify things for both you as an organization and for your candidates, then those touch points become fewer. Then those touch points become better experience. Like, it's much easier to create 5 great experiences than 15. And that's where I think things fall through the cracks. So I think organizations are thinking about how they can do this internally to save time, and to your point, increase responses, but increase the right responses. So how can they be thoughtful about what they're doing? Because I think, otherwise they're often so focused internally that we forget about the experience. So I think if you can simplify and streamline your processes internally, and then also the experience for a candidate, then you can focus on making that experience much better. And then I think with that as well, we talk a lot about personalization. We talk about candidates' journey, talk a lot about like hyper-personalization. Going back to your pet hate earlier, Claire, I'm just trying to bring this home now. Hyper-personalization, is it a buzzword or is it valuable? I mean, I'm a bit biased because of what we do at the Martec. So I'd like to, if nobody's going to believe me, you all believe me. I'm honest Joe, right? Let's speak to Claire. What are your thoughts? Buzzword or valuable?
Go for it. I think you've got to go for your value, don't you? I think you've got to create something that's really meaningful for you, but actually just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean you have to do it as well. I think that's one of the key things.
Yeah, okay, exactly. So look, we've literally got 5 minutes left. So yeah, right. Even with Breathe, we managed to talk and go in circles. But I think, really, really bringing this back is like, you've got to put yourself, you said this, Claire, you've got to put yourself in the candidate's shoes. Do you meet my needs? And if you don't, right, that's literally, you've got to think, lazy candidate. I was taking Claire. Or the one thing she doesn't want to remember she said through this. Do you meet needs? Because if they don't, you've lost them. So how do you try and attract and engage people in an instance and talk their language, basically? So, and think about why you're trying to do it. So let's look at D&I on everyone's mind, for example. Why are you trying to attract D&I? Tell them the stories. What does that mean? What are you trying to do with the business? And we saw, some great stuff at Worldy B-Day, for example, when I think it was Supermarket Kaufland showed that they weren't afraid to put their money where their mouth is and showcase their existing diverse talent. And you and I were sitting there. It was actually one of the best things that I liked there, because they weren't sitting behind political correctness. They basically outright said there's a market of talent that can't work, or that are struggling to find work and can't work. We want to hire them. It was so personal and open and honest, and say, why we need people. There is a market out there of people that can work with us. It was just brilliant, right?
And it was really inclusive as well. I think that was a nice thing. And they were going after a section of people that they needed to get more talent from. So I think when you're with that balance in mind, when it comes to DE&I, a lot of people go, I need to hire more women, I need to hire people from this ethnic minority. But actually, you've got to think to yourself, what are the right strategies to do that? And be bold when you are doing it, because actually it's absolutely fine to go after a different set of people, because that's what you want to do. But I think don't try and hide behind something else as well. Like, actually, if you're going to make it candidate centric, you're going to have to make sure that it's really tailored and speaks to them. And I think it takes something like that to make sure things resonate. Like, there's a reason why marketing works really well and it doesn't break us. And those marketing strategies, they're tried and tested. Like, your data doesn't lie. Your data is there to tell you the story, and you just need to make sure that you're interpreting it, always looking at it and going, okay, is this working? What do I need to change? Like after every campaign, what are you changing? What are you going to do? Like, do you review every campaign after you've done it to go, what didn't work very well? Okay, great, I got hires, I got diversity, I got X, Y, and Z, but actually, what didn't I do well? And I think if you keep doing that, you'll keep creating a journey that really focuses on your candidate.
Yeah, agreed. And for me, talking about sort of data, everything that traditional marketing based off, but I'm going to sort of bring up the swear word for a bit to bring us home, which is about, I think the reality of all this is about outcomes. It's about hiring critical talent at the end of the day. And what traditional marketing function has done well is setting hard goals that are super measurable, right? And I think employer brand, talent attraction function has actually often really struggled to do that. Let's be real, right? And I think we could do a whole other session of outcomes of what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to build talent pools, hit D&I goals, transformation goals. Like, what are the hard tactics you're going to use to get there? What are the benchmarks at each part of that journey? And then thinking, okay, how can AI impact those, improve conversion?
Yeah.
How can your people improve conversion? How can their networks help you hire? Employer content and talent marketing, how can they all create the outcomes you want? Put a hard metric against each of them. And when I worked at LinkedIn, every day we lived and breathed working backwards from your outcome. And we try and do the same now. For example, you need to hire 100 engineers. So you need 2.3 million impressions to get X, which benchmarks in your industry would be I'm not going to bore you with that, but it was really hard. And you have to start saying, well, if you need 100 engineers, what's the top of the funnel and which parts of that journey are broken? And what resources and tools and people do we do to lift the KPIs at every stage of that journey?
I think my final point in it would be, if you know what your outcome is, figure out how to get to your outcome and then plan the journey, rather than try and go along the journey and hope that you achieve the outcome. I think it's just working backwards. It's a different way of working, but it really, really helps.